Good afternoon, good morning, I guess would probably be more appropriate to say. We've got Mike Ostro joining us here at the table. We've got a couple other guests lined up. I guess I should have checked that before we went live, square that up a little bit. Behind us, you can see Jamie Brown's number 661 on the other side of the mall. A little adjacent to our vantage point here is the Zach Herman, number 315, the number 80 of David Stone. And also on the other side of that, we've got the two Chryslers that are owned by Mike Osterhout coming out here to be part of Finger Lakes Speedworld. Appreciate you coming down here. I was excited to hear that you're bringing the two cars. One of them is a pre-run that we saw run at Seneca County and at Paradise at the end of last year. And then the brown one is the fresh car that you won at the New Year's party. Both of them sitting side by side have generated a ton of foot traffic this year. Kind of need to be part of a show like this where, you know, you're surrounded by sprint cars and dragsters and there's a couple derby cars kind of taking over the top end of the mall.
Absolutely. Real nice. Real nice invite. Real nice to be able to get the cars up and try to get them up here so we can see what it's all about.
Did you ever think that you'd have derby cars as part of a car show?
No.
No?
No. I just thought I'd have two cars sitting side by side, bring them up here so everybody can see. And it's kind of neat, real neat experience.
What was the input so far on the experience of being up here and the input that you got when you were moving the cars in?
You get the fact of, oh, you're really doing this, you know, you're bringing your cars up, everybody's going to see, you're going to be called a cheater, you're going to be this or that. I say, you know,
those are derby driver words, right? Everybody's getting on
yeah.
you from that perspective.
All the derby guys are really getting after it these days.
On the flip side, how about from the folks when you were bringing the car in? I mean, you're set up adjacent to South Butler Dragway. You had to pass a bunch of race cars on the way up the ramp to get to this point. What about the feedback from other showgoers and other fans that may not even have expected to see derby cars or something like this?
They've been real good. They were really curious as to how ours are set up versus theirs, and to see the actual people turn their heads. And man, you guys are taking such nice cars to smash them up, but at the same time, you know, we make them look pretty, just to take them out there and get it all dirty.
We talked a little bit with some of the dragster guys, and they said that the sportsman modified guys were a little crazy because why would you ever want to go that fast in dirt? And then they said that the 360 sprint car guys, the modified drivers and the drag racers said the 360 sprint car guys were crazy because why would you ever want to go that fast in dirt in a car that light?
Absolutely.
And then all of those guys collectively said that you're crazy because why would you want to go volunteer for a car accident repeatedly 30, 40 times in the span of a half hour? So it goes in the book that you're the craziest group of drivers here.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
We've got a 64 Plymouth Belvedere that's from South Butler Speedway right in front of us. So have you had a chance to look over that at all and see if anything would transfer?
I have. I've been looking at the way they set their cage up, the way they set, you know, the drivetrain, and how they try to convert the power from the motor back to the rear end. I mean, it all kind of works the same, except they got a lot nicer car and try to keep it that way. And we go out there just to smash them and have fun.
So would you want to have something like that, perhaps with an M sub in it?
It would work. I'd be crazy to say so, but absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, you can't beat a nice clean car to work on. It's always nice.
There's always room to weld. On the topic of that, we've got some rule changes in place for Seneca County this year. I saw the post officially was made, but I understand that there's been rules that have been out for a little while now. The mod class coming back to Seneca County. You excited about that?
Yeah. Be real nice to see it come back. Hopefully all the guys that have offered up and say that they're coming are going to build, and hopefully it'll be a good show for Kyle. You know, it'll put a good show on for everybody.
We've had a chance to look over one of the cars that you're going to see in the mod class. Zach Herman already beginning to convert last year's LTD. I think he ran that at Kings of Old School, and now he's going to turn that around and run that at Seneca County. He's got a good start on it.
Absolutely.
It's got a huge dash bar in it. It's got a couple good-sized kickers, and the dash bar that the kickers are tied into is also tied into the halo with a big bar over the window. What do you think? Is that your style of build, or do you like the stocker stuff?
I like the stock stuff, but it's very interesting how everybody is converting over to this. The learning curve is definitely a lot bigger to learn to be able to bend the car the right way, to build the car the right way.
Right.
Because it's a lot different than just basically knocking the windows out, welding a few doors shut. Now you're tilting this, doing that, and the cars are going to bend a lot different. They get a lot stronger, and it's definitely been shown out west and all over that these tilted cars they're pretty much it.
Yeah, he's tilted pretty good underneath it, but then he's got the kickers that come off that dash bar through the firewall and down, and they're nestled up real nice right behind the control arms. But
Absolutely.
in front of that, even though he's got the nice spacers and the core support, not tearing down his build, that's going to be the part that he needs to address next. And once he gets done running all the steering components and putting the engine cradle and stuff, and I think a lot of that gap will get made up.
Yep, that's a fact. Those kickers definitely make a world of a difference,
Don't they?
for the builds. And once you get the kickers in and then you figure out how to make everything else kind of stay in place, they become very tough cars.
You ever mess around with an LTD?
I haven't yet.
You ever gonna?
It's in the works.
Really?
I believe it's in the works.
I'm surprised by this.
I'm going to try to figure out how to put a big block Mopar in one, but
That's
I believe it'll be in the works here in the next couple of years.
360. Go to the 360. 318, 360. You don't need a big block.
I just haven't been able to. I ran one before, and I didn't have real good luck with it. It seemed to want to overheat all the time. My big blocks, I seem to pretty much got
Both of
them
those
down.
are 380, or excuse me, both of those are 400s, right?
The pre-ran one is a 383, and the other one is a 400.
It is. You look at something like the tilted cars that you see out of the Midwest and stuff, and you've been in Mopar stuff for as long as I can remember.
Yep.
So how much of that stuff can you apply when you've got the subframe set up like that you've got in the late 60s and then the shocker style set up with the cars that you've got over there? When you talk about running kickers and stuff off the dash bar, and it's going to change all your flex points and stuff, and it's like we talked about, it's going to bend different, but I don't know
Yep.
if is it necessarily strengthening that car? Do you need a car with a full frame in order to do that?
I would say it's definitely a benefit to have a full frame, because now you're putting, when you do the kickers and that, you are allowed more body mount bolts. Well, they got a full frame, so you're going the whole length of the car, which you can strengthen it back to the body, versus the subframes. You only got a certain amount that you can anchor to, and obviously the body of the car is going to bend before the whole car.
Right.
So
Right.
they definitely have an advantage over that, because we might test the theory at Waterloo and see how it works, because we might run a stock heat, and then I might take my stock car out there and actually try to see what it's really gonna
Right.
do. Whether it's gonna be junk or not.
So you're just going to throw some kickers in it and see what happens?
I
or
think
you
I might
gonna-
weld them in right there at the track. I'm
Are
gonna
you-
cut the holes and weld them in right there at the track and bring it out.
Wouldn't you want more time so that you can measure it out, check your angles, look at your geometries, and try and find more to do in addition to it? Or is really all that you need for that is just a couple kickers?
I don't know. I've never built one, so I guess I got to test my theories. And
You ran the mod class, didn't you?
nope, I've never run the
You've
mod
never
class.
been in the mod class.
Nope.
All right. I misunderstood that. I thought for sure you had a mod car at some point.
Nope.
Yeah, because you didn't ever do Cuba either.
Nope, I haven't run Cuba. I ran the mod class in Canandaigua only because there was two
I remember
Imperials
that. Yeah, I
up there, and they didn't have enough cars, so I volunteered myself to go out there and run with them. So I mean, it's definitely a big learning curve, but I'd like to stay with my Mopars because everything kind of falls into place for me, and hopefully, with doing that, I can learn how to build a subframe car to be a good modified car.
Coming up through Waterloo and having not traveled as much as a competitor, who do you tap to get this information? You spend your time researching on the internet. Do you do the old method of pure trial and error and waste a couple different shells just to figure out what works and what doesn't, or is there people that you can turn to in terms of getting some of that information? At home, your hometown fair, Mopar still has plenty of home. Every place else they've transitioned out of that, and you're looking primarily at the mid-70s full-frame GMs and the newer style Fords. But that's also a characteristic of the build that we're talking about. So
Yep.
where did you get your information to actually get to the point where it started? Because your Mopars have been hard. You just got to
Yep.
get some luck to fall your way.
Yeah, that's usually the biggest thing is you got to have the luck. But when it all comes down to it, I started building with Ben Haas and Brian Tompkins, and these guys are obviously with you and all over the place seeing all these cars. So the knowledge from the older guys really helps. Besides just going and looking, okay, well, you notice something's different with this car, but how did they incorporate it to make it look this way, or how is it going to act when this does that? And it's really been a good, I guess, a good life lesson in the derby world. To have these guys near you, teach you, and just see the passion that comes out of it.
Sure. On the topic of the passion thing, I bumped into one of the cop boys this morning in Seneca Falls. He says that there's a chance that maybe that mod class is going to have one of them in it.
Nice. They're strong cars. Everybody, gotta have them. I definitely, when we ran Paradise this year, I really got to see one built and got to see it, act and be able to run with it. And, you hit them. They're hard.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. Rather muddy or not, that's a hard car.
If either one of the cop cars shows up, like a Cordoba, they show up, or they go old and they go back to like a Galaxy or something like that, you know it's going to be hard.
Oh, absolutely.
They've proved it a ton of times.
Absolutely.
It's just one more.
It's just all in the fact of how much time you want to put in and how much you're willing to really go that extra distance and find it out.
I've asked a lot of people this question, and it's always a funny response. If Desiree, dear sweet Desiree, if she ever sold all your derby stuff for what you told her you paid for it, what would you do?
I guess that's the part of being married. Yeah. Sometimes you got to suck it up, take the loss, and okay, honey, you're right, and this is how it goes. But it'd be pretty devastating because it really is
tons of money.
Oh, absolutely. I tend to go a little overboard. I don't like to use used parts. So, I'm the first to admit I just pick up the phone and I need this, I need it now, and here it is. And does she really see the whole effect of all of it? No. But if she ever did, I'd probably, you're probably going to put me in divorce court, but here we go.
You talked about going with new stuff. You've got that in full effect this year. You've got tons of new equipment in that. You got your first experience with the cable shifter. Haven't had a chance to drive it yet, but you've got one. And you got some new pedal setups and a couple tanks from Catskill Fab and Performance in the cars from last year and this year.
They definitely.
Talking about the new parts, there's a couple of them.
Yeah, Catskill's definitely been one of the, good places to go to get new parts. In the old car, we got the Catskill double brake pedal, because last year I suffered a failure of my own part. I lost steering, so this year I figure put the pedal in. If I have to, I'll drive it like a dozer.
Right.
So, we got the cable gas pedal in there. We got the old Raptor Fab in that one. We got a stainless steel fuel cell, and then the newest addition to it is I just bought a brand new Holly 500. It's got the high-rise 383 high-rise intake on it, and hopefully with all the new parts and new performance you can get in it and see what happens.
The high-rise really making a difference? You think it made a difference?
Performance-wise, yes. It's definitely livened the motor up. It's made,
And that's the 383, right?
Yep, that's the 383. Hopefully the heat gets away from the motor a little better. There's a few other little tricks that I've seen in different places that I want to try to incorporate, but, I threw it together real quick for you and try to get it up here and make everybody happy. And, like you said with the raffle car there, it did come with the cable shifter, cable shifter versus that Raptor Fab. I really do. From the time that I moved it and drove it around a little bit, those cable shifters seem to be real nice. They're a really nice way to go.
It's up there high, isn't it?
Yeah. It's up high, but it's so smooth. It's very, very smooth. A little bit, I'm almost sad to say because I've been a Raptor Fab for so long. I think I might end up buying another one.
That Chrysler, is that the first Chrysler you primarily had Dodges and Plymouths, right? Is that the first Chrysler that you've had?
Yep, that's the first Chrysler. It's the first New Yorker I've ever had. Usually I try to stick to my Grand Furies and my Monacos.
And this one, you noticed something right off the bat when you started trying to reach for stuff.
Yeah, it's definitely remarkably bigger. it's got a couple extra feet there. You kind of sitting there and it's, wow, I got a lot more room.
You said something about having a new oil cooler in one of them too, right?
Yep, Catskill in the old car there. It's got, instead of having the oil filter on the block, I took that off, ran the oil cooler inside the car. So now we got that nice big oil cooler sitting inside from Catskill, and works real well.
How'd last year go as a whole? You had the issue at Seneca County, which left easily one of the most time-consuming builds that you put together.
Yep.
Getting this the Plymouth together, the Monaco together, and then heartbreaking night when the steering goes out of it and you can't even get back into the mix, and you had plenty of car left.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
turn around, but put the car back together, make a couple changes to it so that you can go run at Paradise at the end of the year, and water ends up infiltrating all the electrical system and kind of leaves you hung out to dry with mud that was pouring up through the transmission tunnel up to basically your knees.
Yeah,
So
it was
take me
definitely a wet day.
Take me through last year and what it was like to endure the highs and lows of it.
It really started nice. Everything was falling together. Everything's nice. The car's running real good. I was very happy, putting the drivetrain together. I tried to match the motor to the tranny all the way to the rear end. We tried a few different things. I had Givo build me a couple rear ends and see how it all worked out. I tried something I'd never done before. I tried to actually go win a derby instead of just go drive a derby. So I went out there and kind of drove Miss Daisy, and everybody kind of got a little upset with it, but what can you do?
They noticed.
Noticed a lot. That's pretty bad. I didn't realize it was that bad until I looked at it myself on the video. But it's all in a whole. Sometimes you get luck to fall your way, sometimes you don't. But when we went over to Paradise, it was like a monsoon. They asked, "You guys want to run?" Yeah, sure. Never in the thoughts in my mind that little bit of water coming inside the engine compartment with it running would be that bad. I mean, it soaked the distributor. It just went through the top of that big block all the way down into the oil. I mean, it was bad.
And this is not at all a reflection on the show at Paradise either. That fall cleanup derby drew 100-some cars, and they did the best they could with the track that they had to work with. Mother Nature just didn't cooperate, and when you put that much water on that much clay, it's gonna get sticky. So that's notwithstanding. The major parts weren't affected. It's not like you had the radiator clogged up with water and the motor got hot. It's not like you're dragging around the extra weight of the clay and you burned up a rear end or a transmission. Things just didn't fall in line, and then you said you dumped like a cup of water out of your toggle box.
Oh yeah, it was bad. It's the boxes that I had that were covering up the wires. The water was everywhere. The clay was it was horrible. I got clay. You can look at it now. The car's sitting over there. I bet you I've gone to the car wash 4 or 5 times and I still can't get it all out. I vacuumed about 10 times trying to get it out. It just keeps coming. Just keeps coming. Well, yeah, they definitely, the Ellisons have something going really good over there. Between the Derby, what was it, last 2 years they put the Derby on, and now this year with the swap meet, they're doing real well over there.
And yesterday they had adverse weather conditions, but it was still mobbed over there for the swap meet.
Absolutely.
At Paradise. They had a ton of people there. I saw every post that I saw was, I spent several $1,000s at Paradise. And it's like that's a great thing. They're bookending with a couple nice programs. And we had Wayne on the show last Monday. Talking about it, he said basically the thing that I liked about the late winter, early spring season was the fact that we got to go someplace and have a swap meet where you could buy stuff in one spot. You didn't have to travel a long way. Everybody found one common place to do it, and when they got the opportunity to do this at Paradise, it was so close to. Make sure everything. It was so close to the thruway. It's. Yep. I-90 to 14 and you're there.
Absolutely.
Easy to get there. So it made a very logical spot. And there was people that were coming in from Massachusetts, Vermont, Western New York, up from Pennsylvania. It was a great thing.
Absolutely. It's really nice to see all these different people come together, rain or shine. Everybody wants to show up. Everybody wants to have a good time, It's the off season, and here we go.
Rain or shine. Rain or shine.
That's a fact. It was real nice to see everybody, see all the parts, and
it wasn't a lot of shine.
No.
You hit on something that I was kind of interested in. First off, you said that you had Givo's Rears and Gears, a local company right here, does a lot of drag racing rear ends, and you've done a lot of work with them too for the Derby stuff. You said he put together multiple rear ends for you.
Yep. In last year's car, I had it's an 8 3/4 rear end. It's got all new axles in it, all new bearings. He put a full spool with a set of 513 gears in that 8 3/4 rear end for me. And then next week, I'm supposed to be getting back the one for the New Yorker, I had
Okay.
another 8 3/4 rear end with a set of a full spool with a set of 489s put in that one.
Okay, so I misunderstood that part of it. I thought that you guys had put together 2 or 3 rear ends to try and match performance so that everything in line was the best combination you had. But it was just one rear end
Well, yep.
for that car.
Yeah, just for that car.
Okay.
Since I just got the other one, and I mean, you know, like you said, I've spent enough money. I don't know if I should go and build another motor or just go in.
Those were my words, not yours, and you didn't necessarily agree with me on that either. So maybe you won't get in nearly as much trouble at home as when you get back there. You said something about matching the rear end, matching the motor and transmission all the way
Yep.
back to the rear end. So when you're talking about matching it, what was your goal there? Are you just trying to match build years, match mileage, match original combination that came out of one car and keep it together when you put it back in the next? What are you matching together there?
I was trying to match the power from the motor to the transmission with, you know, matching a torque converter and everything else. I really sat down and tried to really understand what I was trying to get, because I wanted to put a lot more power to the car.
Okay.
At the same time, not burn it up, blow it up. You see all these guys out west, you know, they're running an hour and a half for a derby. You know, we run what, maybe a half hour.
Right.
So I'm trying to get my stuff together to where I would like to be able to go run with these guys. Or, I mean, I know I can't compete because I don't have the quality of stuff they have, or maybe I do and I just don't realize
and you don't know it, right?
You know, but be able to. I went a little steep on the gear to see what it was going to do. But I mean, overall, the car handled nice. It performed nice. It never overheated. The oil, you know, everything was good. Between the oil coolers and the tranny coolers and all that, it's really starting to help the overall performance of the drivetrain that I'm trying to put together.
So the importance of trying to match that stuff through, I never really thought about it, but you know, you see guys that have chronic problems with transmissions that they do on their own, or they have someone else do something.
Yep.
Whereas they have a motor that they sunk a ton of money into that's making absurd power numbers, it's putting down all kinds of torque. And if they never thought about it, or if their transmission builder didn't get correct information or misunderstood something, miscalculated something easily, that could be a major problem with, you know, just simply your torque converters, and then you look at what's going on behind the transmission, transferring from through the tail shaft into the drive shaft.
Yep. I ran into trouble last year when I was building that the Monaco there, and I found it's a big block Mopar tranny 727. I found that first time ever that different transmissions have different input shafts. I found one that had a ring around the end of it, didn't know what it was, so me being me, something's wrong with it. So I tried to file it down, you know, try to really take the time to fix it so I get a torque converter on it. Well, it ended up being that I needed a special torque converter to put on that.
Oh no!
So I get a brand new transmission back from being rebuilt, and I ruined the input shaft in it. So then, you know, you got to go through the fact of now you got to change that, and you know, away you go. But to really get a transmission that's going to last is, you know, was my biggest thing. I had to have a gentleman that we know. He builds transmissions and stuff on the side, and we took out all the stock parts and kind of put heavier parts in to see. And so far, it's working. You know, add a little bit more expensive fluid in there, a little heavier fluid, and it's really working well so far.
The fluid selection is there's so many different schools of thought on it.
Yep.
Like, you want thinner stuff so it'll spin freer earlier. You want thicker stuff so that it'll be able to take the abuse a little bit more. You want to run more oil in it so that it lubricates it top to bottom. You want to run all these different combinations, synthetic versus regular. Where are you at with it?
I'm a firm believer of full synthetic fluids. It definitely costs a ton more, but I've seen good results out of it. I haven't had many problems with it so far. You know, especially with the transmissions, them Mopars they're so finicky. I mean, you get just a little bit too much in it, it doesn't want to move. Right. You get too less in it, it doesn't want to move. If it's not right there, it's become a little bit of a headache, and spending $1,500 on a tranny every time is, you know, in my pockets gets a little cost effective real quick.
Just checking in, we have Jason Koch and Kyle Polly listening in as they head back down to their home area from the swap meet. They were up here to check it out, which is kind of cool. A couple guys from Kentucky, West Virginia coming up here to take part in the swap meet. enduring the weather. Ed Brewster, he's inside. He's from Virginia. He was very impressed at the road cruise yesterday because he was making the trip in. He was staying at the Micro Hotel in Waterloo. And he said, if this much snow, because we got some snow yesterday, which really wasn't, it wouldn't have delayed school. It wouldn't have changed life for us if it was a weekday versus a Saturday. And he said that much snow fell in his home area, the whole community would shut down. Up here, he's like, everybody just clean the roads off and kept going. He was impressed by that.
Absolutely.
Ed's over there getting ready for the RC Derby that's coming up here at 3 o'clock. The RC Derby is going to have 3 different divisions, national cars, stock cars, and the trucks will wrap up the afternoon. That's going to be after the Power Wheels races. We haven't been able to put the sandbags on the perimeter of the track because I'm not sure where they're going to tell us to go in terms of the Power Wheel races. And we're probably going to have to end up moving that thing, slide it down a little ways, but should be all right. And so that's basically the itinerary for today. We're live here, 11 o'clock from Finger Lakes Speedworld. Jim Olin welcoming some Derby cars. There's the nose of James Brown's car. You can see Nash Ridley's sprint car. And it's over there with the Paradise Speedway. And looking down towards center court, we got a lot of traffic showing up here again this morning. Some mall walkers enjoying the chance to look at a bunch of race cars. And then from here, once we wrap up about noontime, about a half hour from now, we'll get over there for inspection. They'll have the Power Wheels races at 2, and then the RC Derby goes off at 3. That has gained a lot of traction. There's been a ton of people. The security guy was up here asking what time it was going to start because he wants to come up here for it. And it's like,
very nice.
What you don't understand, sir, is we're also going to need security up here because some of these things have gotten a little intense at times. We saw a man in their 40s yell at a kid that's like 10 years old about driving and things of that nature, which was
gets a little intense sometimes.
Got to question your life decisions if you're that guy, you know.
Absolutely.
You referenced the Midwest a lot. We've had a chance to get out there a ton of times, as far out there as Utah. We're going to be out there for May Mania here in a couple weeks. We're going to be out in Topeka, Kansas here in 2 weeks for Capital City Carnage. Where do you want to go? I mean, what's one of the shows that you want to get the opportunity to go see sometime?
You know, I sit there and I see a lot of them. You see the Capital City Carnage and Blizzard Bash and all that. You know, I really seen Blizzard Bash and I'd really like to go try someday. And but man, the guys are crazy. They definitely drive hard.
Yes,
drive real hard. It's take a little guy and put him in a big world, and it all changes real quick.
But the thing is we've hit on this a bunch of times. It doesn't matter the level. It's still the same process. So many of those guys that are going out there to run a Blizzard Bash, it's 3 o'clock the night before the biggest derby of the season. Same thing with Bash for Cash.
Yep.
Either or. The night before the biggest derby of the year, and it's 3 a.m. and they're trying to figure out how to get their transmission back in, or they're starting this over, they're starting that over, they're trying to weld, they're pulling through tech inspection, and the paint's still wet. They're telling the techs, be careful, don't lean on the doors. It's still got wet paint on it. It doesn't matter, whatever level you go to. And so many people that we've met in our travels that have said, I'm county fair level. I'm regional at best. I can't do it. Every one of those guys that's at those shows at some point started out being county fair level. And then they just decided to jump into the deep water. And, I'd love for more people from the East Coast to go out there and try that show. Just because the sensation, as Josh explained it, you stage outside, and then you come through the Zamboni entrance to the ice rink.
Yep. So
you go through the transition from outside, then you go through this dark tunnel where basically the only light is from the security office. And then all of a sudden, it opens up, and there's all these lights from overhead, and you see just the entire double bowl full of people, and they're just there to see you drive as hard as you possibly can.
Yeah, the feeling's got to be unreal. You got to feel like a superstar when you're going out there. So it's like,
well, Josh always feels like that, but everybody else probably gets to share it now.
Oh, absolutely. Just to go out there and run in something like that, I think it's gonna be, it'll be super exciting. You'll kind of forget about, I got all this money wrapped up, and go out there.
Or run the stock class. I mean, they have the chain and go divisions out there.
I mean, even still, you're going out there and go out there to have a good time, and it's like, I'm gonna hold this tight to the floor. I'm sorry, everybody, but I'm here to run. I came all this way. I'm not gonna get stuck on a berm or something else. Hopefully, you can go out there and you can put on a show and learn a whole bunch from everybody else.
You're talking about the amount that it costs. It costs money to go to college.
Absolutely.
And that's what that is. You invest that money and you walk around there. You just keep your phone in your pocket and your eyes open, and you can see so much stuff. And even if it's something that you see on a Riviera,
Yep.
you can turn around. You can say, okay, that might work if I do this and this to my '74 Monaco. And
Absolutely.
it's that stuff that there's so. And we were comparing notes on Blizzard Bash. Now that Smash It is in position next year to take over Blizzard Bash, the Topeka hard cars are as hard or harder as the Bash for Cash cars that are as hard or harder than the Topeka cars, but they're hard for different reasons. The whole theory behind the builds are completely opposite. So when we start seeing some of that information now crossing over, with Smash It being involved now with both, owning the Bash for Cash, and now after 2017 concludes, being fully in command of Blizzard Bash, seeing those worlds begin to overlap and see what comes of those concentric circles and what that Venn diagram has in the middle for the commonalities and what begins to spill over is going to be crazy, because we don't even know what's going to be the next hot ticket. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And then you're going to have to build to that.
Be fun.
You got to get all your buddies out here and make a team and go out for the Limited World Team Show.
That'd be nice. With Wayne Ellis in there, we talked about it.
Right?
Try to find a place to go run. Coos was kind of close, so we were gonna think about going down there, try to run a 3-man team show, and just to get our feet wet to see how it's gonna be. And I think it'd be real nice to find a place to go and be able to run a team show and see how it's gonna act, because these guys come, they run.
What do you think of the team element?
I think it's really good. It gets a group of guys together. You go out and compete against other teams, and sometimes, I'm bigger than you, I'm better than you, but when it all comes down to it, it's how which car gets stuck first, or how it plays out. I mean, you could go out there with a game plan, and as soon as one car gets hit, now it's a whole different world. So I mean, it's definitely a learning curve, but it's a learning curve that would be really nice to find out.
They have the 70s wire class at Bash for Cash. Have you given any thought to trying that before you make the next step into some of the bigger, heavier build divisions? You could easily go and compete in one of those wire classes with the cars that you've got, with that car right there that you've got here.
Yeah. It's been a thought.
Yeah.
I try to pick the derbies that I can run for my work schedule and everything else, but to
Memorial Day is a tough one.
Yeah, to go small, I don't know if I want to go that way. I think I'd just rather jump right into the Sharks, and
that's what Matt Gaskin did last year.
See how it's going to be. Right? I'm either going to make it
right
or not. So I'd rather just go big and see how it's going to be.
Do you like the county fair scene that we've got in this area? We've got 3 shows in the Finger Lakes between Ontario County, Yates County, and Seneca County that everybody spends a lot of time focusing on. You've run at a better portion of all of those.
Yep.
In different intervals. Do you like the county fair menu that we've got with the build specs and the way that they've evolved to what we've got to work with at present?
I do. It really, for everybody around our area, it really works. Everybody can build their cars the same. It's really competitive. Everybody's really kind of tightened up the rules to where you can go from,
one to the
like
other.
we have the 3 fairs right in a row. So you can go there and you can build a car for one, and if there's something left, you got something for somewhere else.
Right.
And then at the end of the year, we got Wayne show now, so I mean, it really works out. If it's all broken and beaten up, put it back together, and one more time out of it.
One more run.
So
one more run's never enough.
It really, especially like our hometown here, Waterloo, that they really tightened up on the rules, really made it better for everybody around us that was asking, can we have this, can we have that? They're working with us, to help us as well as them, to make it a better show, to put that bigger car count there.
How do we say this here? Is the rule set that we have now, is it easier for a novice to compete with the rule set that's in place now? Somebody who's new to the sport that wants to go with the full size, they can get there's information out there that can make a 98 to 02 or a early 80s Ford competitive. And
absolutely. These guys, they always told us, you guys got the bigger cars and everything else. You guys have been doing it longer, so you know more. Well, I'm here to tell you, I think the guy coming in from, out of nowheres is sat down and did his homework to, this car is a lot stronger than this car. And for the rules that we have nowadays, the newer cars are kind of starting to take over.
Yeah. Okay, so you said something there. If it's a new guy coming in who sat down and did his homework, he can be competitive. That builder can
Absolutely.
be competitive. Do you have to be a hardcore Derby fan to be competitive now?
I would say no.
No?
If you're going out there just for the excitement of,
Little
hey,
head steering wheel holder, that guy?
I knocked the windows out, I put a car together, I'm going out here just to run into things and have fun.
Right.
Yeah, it's definitely a good show for them. I mean, the only thing that they did really is made it a little safer. You can put the cage in a car, you can weld the doors. It gets rid of the chains and, just putting one bar behind your seat and having it shift and people get hurt. So, yeah, I mean, they definitely...
I do like those changes.
The new guy is definitely a lot safer in his car and can be a lot more competitive with the bigger cars.
When you T-bone on the corner, T-bone his passenger side on the firewall with your Chrysler from half track, and he gets thrown onto the floor, he's a lot safer now than he used to be.
Absolutely. There's...
Remember the days when you would T-bone somebody in the passenger side and it would shove the cage right through the doors on the opposite side?
Oh, absolutely.
Right
Absolutely. And I've been on the receiving end of that before where, people come down the track and you get knocked out of your seat and it's like, wow, or, they hit you just behind your door and it shifts the whole door pillar and everything else, and now you're standing there like, whoa.
Yeah, Dan O'Connell did that to you with that Diplomat.
Yep.
That was nice of him.
Oh, absolutely.
He's a good friend.
Absolutely. Hey, out there, everybody's friends, and, you try not to kill one another, but, you're out there to wreck a car. So, sometimes, yes, you do get a full head of steam coming down the track, and it's a little hard to stop sometimes. And I mean,
especially when you have no brakes.
Sorry, guys, but it's, at the end, everybody gets out of their car, shakes hands, have a soda, a drink, whatever they feel that they need, and let's do it again tomorrow.
So we talked a little bit about going into the deeper waters in terms of a build. What about just to go and spectate? I mean, you get to a lot of derbies in this area, within that hub of water. You go all over the place, not necessarily with a car, but you go take it in, see what you can learn, see what your buddies are doing. Where do you want to go and watch? I mean, what's one of the places that's on the travel to list?
I'd really like to go back out to Metal Mayhem, because when it first started, I went out there with Ben Haas, and that was like amazing. I mean, we could, you could sit this close to one another and you couldn't talk because it was like the cars were so built and loud, and it's like, man, what are we doing wrong that these guys, it was like, wow. So, and I know times have changed, so to see it from then to now, it'd be neat to see what has changed versus, back then, and see how much more the cars are built or not built. It's just, it's real nice to be able to walk around, like you said, our bigger show was Coos there for a little while, and to go down there and see these guys coming from out of state and what they're building is unreal. How they're putting them together and why they're putting them together it kind of blows my mind, because I got to learn from Ben Haas that has a mind like you can't believe. The man can put a car together like there's no tomorrow. Where do you go from that? I mean, the bar has definitely been set real high. So, and someday, hopefully, I can either accomplish it, or I guess I'll take a back seat and keep watching these other guys put the show on for everybody.
You're a hard hitter. You go out there and you watch stuff up. I mean, last year was a bit of an anomaly, so to say, because I don't seem to remember you going out there and dragging your feet much. I remember the year that you came with that Ford.
Yep.
And can you really change what a tire is by putting one on the side of it?
No. Nope. Not at all. It doesn't matter. Once again, how much you spend. It just, good days and bad days, and here it goes.
Right.
Once you're on that track, it's out of your hands. You go out there and either you drive your game or somebody else is going to drive it for you.
What do you think of that? I mean, given your affinity for the Mopar stuff, what's your take on the guys in Utah?
Oh, they're insane.
Yeah.
They're insane. I have nothing compared to these guys. We were at the swap meet yesterday, and I'm sitting there, I'm asking questions and everything else, and I just happened to see a gentleman leave with one of those postal Mopar rear ends on his trailer.
Right.
I was like a kid in a candy store. I gotta have that. But here he's going out the door. It's like, how do you compete with guys like that? I mean, those they definitely have their rear ends down, and that's one thing that you get to see, and it's like I gotta have it.
If not that, with the rear end that's all braced in the cladding, and it has so much girth to it, so your arch isn't going to collapse as far, and you can do other things, and you have all the confidence in the world that axle's not going to break as long as you maintain it. Theoretically, it's mostly a lifetime buy.
Yep.
If not that, what has been the biggest change in the sport in our area? We've seen the influx of Baldwin motors where people are spending $10,000 on those. We've seen the influx of engine cradles. Even if you can't use the whole thing, at least the lower half is allowed. You've seen the advent of the transmission brace and people, some of them not knowing exactly how that transmission brace works and putting their pressures in the wrong place. And doing damage to the back half of the transmission. We've seen the influx of pressures that have started to influx here, even though we've got limited weld rules in this area at most shows. We're not full weld. You can still make that pressure stuff apply, and you can make it work. And we've also seen the influx of the gas tank protector, which we all know isn't really doing much of anything for the gas tank. It's all it's all about trying to keep the rear end in place. What has been the biggest influx that has changed the sport in our area? What was the first thing here that started to make a difference?
I guess it would go, they started allowing us to run the lower cradles. Mm-hmm. So we've started to, I guess, change our rules to, how do I put this here?
You change the rules or you change the build?
You're changing the build to help the drivers.
Changing what you're doing with the car to make sure that you can take full advantage of what that lower cradle's doing.
Absolutely. Between that and being able to, they're allowing us to change our tire rules and stuff like that. And, but to be able to put, our cradle, some of them can run the cradles and that in there, which is helping because a lot of people want to run their Chevy drivetrains, in a different car or, the Mopars and this or that, which helps them tremendously.
Sure. You don't have to buy multiple motors, and you can stick with what you're comfortable with.
Yep.
Then you can do more of the rebuild stuff at home.
Absolutely.
Theoretically.
Somewhat. Somewhat.
But did that lower cradle coming in, and when that became adopted, everybody then said, well, since we have the lower cradle, now we're going to need the transmission brace. Now that we have the transmission brace, nothing's going to shift there, so now we need a sliding drive shaft. And now once we have the sliding drive shaft, things are moving in and out. Now we need to find a way to keep the rear end stable. So somewhere in all of that, we got the gas tank protector so that it's going to come so far and stop, and now we want to keep it so that it's coming in at all. And now we see the reboot happening in full, and everybody trying to detune it and come back to stock where we were a couple years ago. Well, stock, loose terms, limited weld, not modified, whatever way you want to interpret that. So was it good? Was it bad in your mind? What was that? What was that transition like from your perspective? I mean, you're a builder, and you've got a very specific car that you like to build that isn't necessarily helped by a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, being able to put all that stuff in the car, I mean, it's really nice. But, like you're saying, with the pinch points and everything else, I mean, if you're not really using your brain on how you put the car together, the car's going to blow apart.
Right.
It might not be the body.
In the most bizarre way ever.
It'll be spots that, okay, well, I tighten this or that. Why did this just blow apart? I mean, it's real weird and, like you say, bizarre where stuff bends. Mm-hmm. I mean, you can only strengthen something so much. I mean, it's only going to crumple so far, and something's got to give.
Right.
And especially for like our rules around here. I mean, there's only so much you can physically do to the car that's not going to, let it.
Your reinforced weak link is only as strong as the next weak link.
Absolutely. And it goes a long way if you're not thinking about it. It could be very costly real quick.
We've seen some guys that have tried that, and we sort of hit on it a little bit earlier. We've touched on it on the show a bunch of times prior, is you can research all you want, and money can buy all the best parts that you can afford. But that doesn't mean that you know how to put it together. And we've seen some guys get real frustrated with the influx of new technology because they didn't put it together the right way, or the one little thing that they missed resulted in a catastrophic failure. So now they're frustrated. Now they spent all this money. This is the best car that they ever built. It was supposed to be a winning car. They were supposed to go win this Derby hands down, no problems. And now they're sitting here with a bunch of twisted metal and broken stuff that they never broke before, and they get frustrated with it. And it's that perseverance, coming back to what we talked to earlier, that you got to put in the hard knocks, you got to put in the time. Sometimes you got to blow through some shells to figure it out. You can do as much research as you want, but if you don't fully understand the direction and the intention of what everything is supposed to be doing, you can get yourself in trouble in a hurry.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Like they say, education don't come cheap, and sometimes it's a real expensive one to learn those. And hopefully, you learn and don't have to keep going back to the same mistakes.
Mark Elliott tuning in. What's Mark waiting for? I wonder if Mark's going to tell us what he's waiting for. Tuning in to hang out with us for a few minutes. Brad Witt just said that you need to buy something expensive for your wife at the mall, basically to make up for all of the stuff that you spent on your Derby car.
Yeah, well, maybe she could just sit in the driver's seat, and that could be the expensive thing we bought her. But it'd be a real nice present for her.
Honey, I'm gonna buy you a shocker for Christmas. And then she says, not if you plan on sleeping in the house Christmas night. So basically that sounds to me like that's just a free pass to buy yourself the shocker if she doesn't want it, right?
Yeah, but do I have to spend the same amount of money on the present as I do the cars?
No.
Or can we?
Well, are you gonna tell her the truth about how much you spent for the car?
Oh, if we ever did, that might make me backpedal a little bit, because there's this, everybody does it, You try to, oh, honey, it only cost this much, but it really did cost me this much.
I've never spent more than $50 for an RC car. I've never spent more than $100 for a piece of equipment for the podcast. Just believe what you're telling, and it'll be fine, right?
You can believe it all you want, but I think after so long, they really do understand. Well, okay, if you say this, it really costs. You say $50, it really costs $500.
Yes.
Or, you say $100, it costs $1,000. They catch on to it after a little while.
I'm going to tell you that this costs $100. Don't ask any more questions and assume I'm lying.
Hopefully, if you are one of the ones that have to buy all the expensive stuff, you got a lot of side jobs, and honey, you can have half, and I'll take the other half to my Derby car stuff, and it makes her life a lot easier, a little bit more simple, and they accept it.
You got a young family.
I do.
And you spend a lot of time at demolition derbies and running in demolition derbies and competing and building cars and stuff. But I don't think I've ever seen you at a derby where, if not Desiree, or not the whole family, at least Desiree was there.
Yep. I try to bring the kids and the family with me, and there's always something for either the driver, or all the way down to the kids now. I mean, they made it really a family function. I mean, it's really nice.
Are they doing Power Wheels?
I'm not sure if they're doing it down at our fair or not this year.
Oh, no, I just mean, have your kids ever driven in the Power Wheels derbies?
No.
Not yet?
Not yet. My boy, he seems to grow faster than anything, and my daughter, she'd rather sit and work on the car with me.
Yeah.
So, they get into it. You let them. This year I let my boy start welding, so
yeah.
He comes out there, he wants to weld on the car, he wants to do this, he wants to cut it up, and it's like, bud, we can't cut this part, but we can this.
Just torch everything.
You got to be careful what you teach your kids, because you might come home one day and the derby car's in pieces.
I was going to ask you that. How involved have you got your kids in getting them away from the screens and away from? I mean, I don't know if you've got your kids. They're not. They might not have cell phones. Maybe they do. I don't know. But get them away from the screens a little bit and get them out there in the shop with you and trying to teach them something, or just to have them around it so that by osmosis maybe they pick up an interest in a motorsport as a whole. It might not necessarily be derby cars, but maybe they want to get into some other walk of motorsport. Are they out there with you quite a bit?
Yeah, quite a bit. I was fortunate enough. I got a place where I store my cars out with Pat Keebler, and I got a great big huge barn that we can go out there. The kids can mess around a little bit, and you can work on your cars. Everything's nicely, stacked together, all lined up, and the kids come out, and unfortunately they bring their games with them. But at certain times, if you're welding or something like that, they can't always get in the car where you're welding or something like that. But I try, give them, open up the toolbox, let them go to town, tear this apart, have something there sitting for them so they got some kind of interest in it. And,
Right.
Dad, what, every once in a while you get, Dad, what's this do, or why does this do it? So
Right.
it's pretty cool, to see a younger person get involved in it.
And suddenly you're the smartest person in the room.
Yeah.
Right?
Some days you can tell yourself that. It's, it's kind of nice.
That the Power Wheels thing with the balloons on it. Have you seen that yet?
I haven't.
So they run the Power Wheels just like typical that we've seen where they run it on time, right?
Yep.
They just go out there 15 minutes, they can knock around, whatever. Some of these shows now are putting 4 balloons on the car or 6 balloons. They got 1 in the front, 1 in the back, and then 2 on each side. And as they derby around, the balloons get popped. And if you run out of balloons, you're done.
Very nice.
In one place, did heats and features for them. So
Oh,
if you had 2 balloons left, you could add a third. If you had 1 balloon left, you could only add a second.
Very nice.
So you had to fix the car for the feature and try and teach them how to drive and protect and be aware of what the car has on it and what you have left to spare and try to pick the shots. It was awesome. It was a great idea. And it was definitely successful. I was very, very impressed with that.
Yeah, it's definitely nice to see the young kids come out and do that. I mean, the few that I have seen, I mean, these little guys, I think they're more competitive than the big guys. They get violent. I mean,
Hey, how are you?
car won't move. They're trying to push it. They're looking at it, trying to figure it out, do everything the big guys do. And it's nice to see the young ones get out there and really enjoy what everybody else is, put together.
For all the times that the Power Wheels at home got turned into derbies, now they're all over the place. Organized. They have rules. They have build specs, and they have cheaters. We saw one of the shows that we went to. There was a company that was there vending aftermarket parts for Power Wheels,
No
like
kid.
better wheels and better this and better that. And they were selling frames. They had an extension kit that you could put in so an adult could drive it. And you could stretch it.
That's very nice.
And they were running aftermarket electronics kit so that the motor would go faster, so they could sustain more voltage if you wanted to run a double battery setup, or sometimes run over the top stuff like lawnmower or motorcycle batteries.
Wow.
One kid had his backside just about catch on fire because his dad had hidden one of the lawnmower batteries underneath it, but hadn't done anything else to the wiring, and it shorted out. It just started to smolder the motor.
No kidding.
It was So there's the perils befall them all.
Hey, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
It's always nice. We push things as bigger cars, and got to push the motors as far as they'll go. That's for sure.
We were at a show in Dunkirk, and it was going to be on aged blacktop, so it was cracked and pitted and stuff. And those plastic wheels, the little bit of tread that's on them isn't going to do anything on them.
Absolutely.
So the dad had taken on the front drive tires, put strips of rubber tire, and put them in place with self-tapping screws, and did the same thing to the back tires, but he had cross-hatched the ones in the back so that it would get traction going forward and backward.
Nice. Very nice. Very nice.
Good thinking, I guess. It was unbelievable to see. But coming up on the top of our hour here with Crash Course Live at the Finger Lakes Speedworld event, did you get a chance to walk up and down and take the kids to see some of the other walks of motorsport that were represented here with some of the dragsters at the bottom end, the sprint cars, sportsman modifieds, things like that?
I have. I got my boy here with me, and he walks up through here and looks at all the stuff, and next thing you know, Dad's pockets are getting less and less full, and we could build this, Dad. We could make this, we could do that, and it's like, all right, Bob. It's like, at the same time, it's like, you got to understand, this costs money. You want to do this, here it is, but all these guys, I mean, they brought a real nice collection of cars up here.
What was he looking at, saying you should get into? Are you going to start looking at buying the sportsman modified?
He wants to start with the go-karts down below.
Yeah.
He says, I can fit in one of them. I said, well, you can fit in one for a little while if you don't stop growing. And, it'd be real nice to get into something like that. Let them really learn, okay, this is what we got. This is, we got to maintain this now. So
it's a very different world.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. The competitiveness is always, no matter where you go, is always there. And to see him be interested in something was really nice.
Okay, so check this out. I just got a message from home. Melissa was driving back after she went out this morning. She wasn't going to make it up here quite yet. She hit a pothole on the way home. And my daughter, she's 4.
Yep.
She's sitting in the back. She says, "Be careful. Those will hurt your axles." Perfect.
Absolutely.
Welcome
Welcome to New York State.
Well done. Well done. Kelsey's been listening to the Derby podcast. Awesome. Yeah. It's Heath Waldron. We talked to Emmett yesterday, and they went from running at Paradise. Now they're running at the Syracuse Mike Rod Club. They got a Mike Rod now. And they talked about what the investment was, and it was an expensive upgrade to change. But they initiated the change because now Emmett's going to be eligible for national points.
Very nice.
And
very nice.
that tracking is the goal, is to get him to a point where he could potentially be a professional race car driver. And they're starting at the same age as your boy, which is crazy. You know, you got to start young and get in one of the development programs early on. But who knows what can happen after that?
Absolutely.
Think about the fleet that your kid could be buying you.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be nice.
With all that sweet NASCAR money, right?
That'd be nice. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. You know, maybe we'll have to take a few of their motors and put it in our car and see how fast we can really go down the track. Yeah. Change a few things over. That'd be real nice.
The Roush Yates Mopar.
Absolutely. You know, have that nice tile floor to work on. And, you know, you can just say, hey, can you guys change this, change that?
Yeah, right.
Sit back, have your cup of coffee, and relax.
It was like Daytona this year. That got expensive quick. Everything looked all tore up. So, you know, if they had a gas tank protector in that, it wouldn't have folded like that in the back after he hit the wall at 200.
Yeah, you see these guys go around, and it's like, man, why don't they just push past? Well, you come up here, and, you know, you get to look at a few of these cars. Well, okay, now I see why they're not pushing past. It's like, man, you give them a little bump, and, well, there goes your whole day, and you can't just do that.
So it was definitely fun to see the different walks of life overlapping. And, you know, we've seen Derby guys having conversations with sportsman modified guys and comparing notes and talking about budgets and where they go, and you start telling them how much you got invested in the car and how much you could potentially go win at the local level, but if you went to the national level, how much you could potentially go win there. And the eyes just get huge, and they don't realize, you know, some of the guys from Western New York that I was talking to about Demolition Derby, they don't realize how big the industry is, and with the backing of companies like Speedway Motors. You know, it was 2 years ago, there was a Demolition Derby car on the cover of Speedway Motors Parts Magazine, which has never happened before or since.
Very nice.
That I'm aware of, that's a huge shot in the arm for the Demolition Derby industry as a whole. And then I realize how big that world is out there. That's one of the neat things that we've been able to do, is go so many different places and be part of so many different events, that the Derby world is seemingly getting smaller and smaller the more interaction that we get between East Coast, Middle America, and the West Coast. I mean, I still haven't had a chance to see a Derby in California, but I would love to do it. It certainly would be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
How can you argue with going to Cali? Well, in any case, here we are at the top of the hour. We appreciate everybody coming and hanging out with us. We got to go turn our attention now to getting this stuff tore down and put away and help Ed out with tech inspection. I got all my cutting done already. I took out a lot of screws.
Hey.
I knew I was going to have to take them out.
Everybody calls it cheating, but you got to really look at it as this is called playing fair. Because if you don't do it, the next guy's going to push the issue a little bit. So if everybody's on the same playing field, hey, everybody can have a good time.
Nope, that was cheating. Just so you know. I was the guy taking advantage of everybody else having to take stuff out.
Oh, is that why I get yelled at for that? Yes, I got you now.
That's exactly what
I
that
got
was.
you. Go that extra mile. I got you.
Hey, Mike, I appreciate it so much.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
I appreciate it. Thank
I
you,
hope you had a good time. We'll be back again on Monday with a regular edition of the Crash Course from Seneca Falls. We'll see you then.